All right. Good evening, everybody. My name is Ryan Allen. I am a computer science teacher at Eastern Guilford High School.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Jolanda Ware. I am a special education resource teacher at Peck Expeditionary Elementary, and at the moment, I am with grades 2, 3, 5, and as of today, 6.
Hey,
I am Olympia Smyre. Oh,
Ooh.
sorry.
No, you good. Go ahead.
I'm Olympia Smyre. I'm a sixth grade math teacher at Phoenix Academy.
And I'm Antoine Demps. I'm teaching business at Pasquotank County High School.
My name is Shamar Muhammad, and I don't have any teaching experience yet.
All righty, so we can just go ahead and jump right into it. Um, so this week we were reading chapter 4 about designing quality classroom assessments. Um, and in summary, hold on, let me get my notes together here. So it basically just talked about the different types of assessments and how to use them in your classroom. Um, I found this chapter to be very informative. I use some of these already in my classroom assessments, but of course, with me just being a newer teacher, I didn't know that they like fell under different categories or had different names, but like when I was reading through them, I was like, oh, I already use some of these different types of assessments in my classroom. So I just thought that was interesting as I was reading it. And I just thought it was very informative reading the different types because there are some other types of assessments that I have not heard of that I didn't know that we could use in the classroom. I'm not sure what everybody else gathered from that.
I kind of agree with you, Ryan. I utilized me as an EC teacher, I often utilize different strategies for different students because of course they all have individual education plans. So I have some students who have specific goals tailored to multiple choice items, whereas I have another student who may not be tailored towards multiple choice items, like it may be a specific goal that this student is given maybe true or false items, or either maybe two different choices rather than multiple choices. So that kind of falls into like the accommodations. But the fact of the matter is that I have to utilize all of them essentially with different students. Like I have some students who have fill in the blank items across the border because they struggle with writing and struggle with taking notes. So that's an accommodation that's implemented in some of their IEPs. And then like short answer items, sometimes I can tailor it to where it's like one sentence. A student can explain their answer in one sentence if they struggle with reading or again struggle with writing. So I like that it gave us the assessment options and kind of went more into detail, and I use them a lot. So it kind of stood out to me too as well, Ryan.
Yeah, I agree. Especially with the students that have those accommodations and those IEPs, I was looking at it and I like how, like you said, like you can use different ones for different students because everybody doesn't assess the same way. So it's good to have those different options.
Right.
Yeah, I was looking at that too, and especially the written response because I take sometimes the written response and we'll like add on to it where they can kind of record themselves and make it a verbal written response. So because now you can use like different apps and it'll turn um, their words into the written response, like it'll type it out for them as they're speaking it. So, like I enjoyed that part. Like I was like, oh, I do that, but I just kind of do it differently because sometimes they have trouble writing, especially your EC students. They have trouble writing because I have a student now just cannot write or necessarily doesn't he can't read as well. So I'll tell him, well, hit the record button and just kind of say what you want to say. It'll write it out for you. And he gets excited. He's like, I wrote that out. And I'm like, yeah, you did that. So yeah.
OMG, and I really want to applaud you for that because that makes my heart melt that as a middle school teacher, you are taking the initiative to do that and to introduce that because that's also something that I'm starting to now that I'm working with like older students, fifth grade and sixth grade, because my school really just became a middle school like this year. So that's why it's a lot because they just literally attached the middle school on. But I say all of that to say though, being able to hear that you are using it and being able to show the student like, hey, you could use the text to speech app too, and that like, and I that can even be used as an IEP goal, and that's something that when you're in his IEP meeting, you could definitely monitor his progress on like how often you use that and how that benefits him more. And sometimes students really do learn better like that, just them not having to focus solely on writing that really does help. And now that like technology is so advanced, like it's really awesome that like students have that benefit. And then what I do notice, and I'm be quiet, y'all. What I do notice also in the general education setting, like a lot of gen ed students have difficulties with writing too, like in expressing like their writing like in a thorough statement, like and it's definitely like writing papers and like rough drafts, like they struggle with that. And I think that that falls into because technology has taken over so much. So it's that text to speech situation that's it's kind of beneficial for more than just EC students. But as a gen ed teacher, I applaud you for taking the initiative to like show him that though, seriously.
Yeah, I agree. That's something I probably have to take back to my classroom because even in high school, like a lot of the kids, I'm not gonna say they can't read and write, but they do struggle. And so having that option, would really be helpful to my high school kids.
Yeah, Ryan, because it's kind of like it's not even considered, like when we was in school, it was kind of like cheating. Like you couldn't use that. That was kind of like not even cheating, but it wasn't something that was um um popular. But like now, like it really is an advantage to like, especially when these students they like are just like stuck with technology. So they learn a certain way. So like at this point, if they can get the work done and that helps them, like that should be something that you know what I mean, I think should be implemented too across the border. Cause like I said, I'm in the classroom too, and I be seeing, I'm like, oh Lord, like these kids is in fifth grade, they can't write, like he can't, they can't write, they can't express their ideas in like that written statements that you were saying, Miss Olympia. Like a lot of them cannot, like, they can't do that. Like, and I think that that's something that we gotta fix as educators for the future, but we can't do it by ourselves.
Yeah.
So I guess I kind of felt like this was a little overwhelming. It was a lot of information. It kind of just let me know that I got a little bit of cleaning up to do on my side as far as assessments. But what I did enjoy was the four principles of how to get a quality evaluation. Um, and it was just nice to get like a lot of the technical terms for a lot of things that I was already doing, but it was just a lot of information.
Yeah, it definitely gives you a lot of information, but it's like it's a lot of good information, but it can be a lot though because you're reading so much and trying to take in so much. So I can understand where you're coming from with that.
Taking in a lot and then trying to figure out how to apply it and then like noticing that every student again even if they don't have IEPs it's like every student is still different and like you trying to being responsible for like a classroom full of students all day. Like I applaud you guys, like, and even the ones even you guys that like have those 90-minute classes, like that is a lot. Like I mean I do that too, but like I can only imagine trying to make sure that everybody is like applying the content and like doing the same thing because I'm just seeing that it's really hard for this fifth grade teacher to like do that. And she has no teacher assistant. So like that's just it's a lot. And this information was like a lot, but she's trying to like her curriculum forces her to have to like she had to they have to be able to do it. And I mean it's really hard for her because of the connection, being able to connect them to being able to answer test questions in like written expression that is like really difficult for her as a fifth grade teacher.
But I think that's why he has us doing these podcasts is because Antoine, like you said, it was a lot of information, but you focus more on the principle where I was like, oh, let me look at the different kinds of assessments. So you're able to bring that principal piece to this conversation where I didn't really focus on that part of it. You get what I'm saying? So I think that's it.
Just our perspective.
It's okay that
Yeah.
you didn't. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? It's okay that you got that part. You know what I'm saying?
Right. I appreciate it.
I agree with like what you were saying about it being overwhelming because it's like it's different types of assessments, but then you got like trade-offs of each one because you could give them a multiple choice, but then it's like how do you know if they really understand it? And then if you're giving them the essays, like now you got to grade all these essays, and there's probably a lot of stuff to grade because how many kids, different kids y'all got, and then some of y'all got different grades y'all got to figure out too. So
Yeah, that's a
But
difficult
it
part.
did have a piece.
Oh, go ahead, Olympia.
No, I was gonna say it did have a piece where it had like you could do the what was it? I had to look at it, but it was like something plus something, like let me go back. Got my notes. But you could do like something and something together, like knowledge targets and a certain kind of assessment together. And I guess that kind of will help you see if the student, the multiple choice part is working for your students, or if you need to switch up and use a different type of assessment, I
Yeah, I think
guess.
it was like the reasoning targets and the personal communications, like the strong match. I think that's what you was talking about. That's what you was referring to. And then like the reasoning targets times the performance assessment, like if it's a good match, just trying to kind of tailor all of that.
Yeah, I agree with that. Especially like Shema said, teaching different grades. Like I got 9 through 12. So like having a ninth grader and a 12th grader, giving them the same thing and they may not be on the same level. It's like it could be difficult.
But you know what? I'm gonna tell you the one thing I do is all my students, like if I'm giving an accommodation for an assessment, then they all get that same accommodation. I do not just because you're not EC or whatever doesn't mean that you don't get it. You know, like if because math, if I'm not mistaken, in the state of North Carolina, you can do read aloud for math, right? So like if I have students that have that on their IEP, okay, well everybody get read aloud because now that you're allowed. And that's what my principal told me. She was like, basically everybody can get read aloud. Okay. Well now everybody getting to read aloud. I'm not about to sit up here and try to figure out who getting what because it just makes it easier for
Right.
me. So I get everybody headphones, everybody getting headphones. Get these headphones and listen to this read aloud and we good. We gonna go with the flow. You know what I'm
That
saying? So I
part.
make it easy for myself. Yeah.
And I will say I agree with that. I love that. I love that, Miss Lippy. Like I love how you like, yeah, I'm making sure that everybody is winning, everybody is getting what they need, everybody can utilize that accommodation. But I will just say um just be careful in the future because what I have learned is if they get used to something like on those like major tests, like we still at the EOG level, y'all, so we still got to get to the EOG. But then when they get there, if they don't necessarily have like a 504 or IEP, that if they become accustomed to having read aloud, they may rely on that, and then like they're not going to have that like on those major final tests that they like have to take. So like get them used to like reading aloud and listening to it, but also like maybe reading with it, and also like learning how to, because if they don't necessarily have that accommodation, like when they get to them final tests, they not gonna be able to read it aloud to them on that. So like they're gonna have to be able to, and that's why I be trying to teach my friends like y'all got to get used to hearing your own voice, like even if you do have the accommodation, like because it's gonna be times where like you're gonna get in certain teachers' class, and some teachers are not going to be able, because when a student got read aloud, they're supposed to have that like on every assessment they take. So like I see so many teachers like they give the assessments and don't like give them, like it might be an informal assessment, but because it was informal, they didn't read it aloud to the kid. But the kid has read aloud. Like that means for every math assessment. So you got some of them that if they get used to hearing that or to doing that, they're gonna rely on that, and they're not gonna have it. And then you got some of them who have it and still can't use it. So just pouring into like both sides, I think that that's like beneficial too. Like just getting them to work on their independence, like because they all can't get no 504 or no EC. I mean no IEP, in my opinion.
Right. But I have the luxury of having my assessments online. So, and yeah, I'm a little blessed right now. So I'd be like, y'all go, if you want to use it, it's there, it's available. But most of them don't use it. Even the EC students don't use it. Um, you know, they don't really use it. You have to kind of make them. They be like, they don't like it. So I'll be like,
Yeah,
it's
and see
there
that.
though. I'll be like, go ahead and use it.
Yeah, and that's a problem too though for like fast bridge too for like my assessments because then like I said on them final tests they gonna have the button but they ain't gonna be to click it. Like they gonna have the X, they ain't gonna be able to use it. You know what I mean? So they might, you know what I mean? Some of them might get used to using it and then on their major tests, even though it's online, they still have like that button to where like it can't be read aloud too. Like so I'm like it's kind of like, and I mean every school is different. But for us, like it just we can't really even give it to them. Like we literally gotta pull them out if they get to read aloud, and they gotta be like in a whole different situation. And so I mean, definitely you blessed for that being able to use that until they stop. You keep using it for everybody.
Yeah, I wish I had that luxury. That'd be nice.
If you're teaching math, I would ask your principal about it because our principal, when she did our training, she was like, basically in EOG time, all students are allowed math read aloud. It's just for math though, not reading because you can't do it in reading, but it's just math.
Yeah, but see, that's why I'm like, I don't know, because I ain't never. If you got read aloud, you will have it. But like, like when because if I have to administer like an NWEA, it's a like if they don't have read aloud in math, then. But typically when I got an IEP, they gonna have read aloud in math anyway. But then like for students that don't, like the teacher has to set the accommodation to where it can't really read it to them if they don't have it in math. But that might be something new though. They might be implementing like that this year into where like everybody may have access to it. You feel me? So I mean, I don't know. Like that's why I'm like I ain't never, but I know like she yeah. So like it's like a button like for the test. Like so if they don't have it, then they not gonna really always have access to it.
Yeah, we set it up for all our students.
Yeah, y'all winning.
So out of all four of the basic assessment categories, which one do y'all find yourselves using the most?
Multiple choice and fill in the blank. Like I said I kind of have a variety because I kind of use, but I would say multiple choice. Like you
Yeah.
gotta really
Hello?
teach the students. Hello.
Did she say the question?
Oh yeah, you didn't hear the question?
I did. My phone went out. I'm so
Oh, my
sorry.
bad. Let me repeat. I just said out of the four basic assessment categories that was discussed in the chapter, which one do you find yourself using the most? I would agree with you though, Jolanda. I do the selected response, which includes the multiple choice, like true and false matching items. I try to stay away from written response. I use that one, but I know me and I don't like short answer questions because I don't like having to write out a bunch of stuff. And I know kids don't like having to write out a bunch of stuff. So I use it from time to time, but if I do, like it may be only for like two questions. So that's probably the one I use the least, but the one I use the most is probably the selected response.
Yeah, I think I'm about the same with the selective response, but also probably a little bit of the personal talk as well, just because I like to, a lot of times just to talk to the students and see where their mind's at.
Yeah.
And sometimes I can see that sometimes it was just a test anxiety or they didn't understand the question correctly. So that's why I like enjoy doing personal talks with them as well.
Yeah.
I think I use selected response as well, a little bit more. Um, just because I mean, who doesn't like multiple choice at this?
Mhm.
If I had to use one, I would probably say personal communication, honestly, just so like you can see like where the person's mind at. But I understand, like, because then again, the trade-off with that is then I have to have an individual conversation with every kid. So I can understand how that would be hard. But I just think that would be the most efficient to see, like, where they're at and stuff like that.
Mhm.
And I had a question to propose to you guys. Like the when they give us the details about the assessment planning stage, it tells us that the planning stage includes 4 steps to determine assessment purpose, specify the intended learning target, select the appropriate assessment, and then determine the appropriate sample frame. Do you guys feel like that's like in order? Like, do you feel like it should be done in that specific order? Like when you're assessing your students? That's just like my question for everybody.
Mm, I don't necessarily think so. That's just my personal opinion, though.
Okay, you said your question so fast. I had a long day.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I said so with the assessment planning stage, like the planning stage includes 4 steps. And the steps are determine the assessment purpose, to specify the intended learning targets. The third step is to select the appropriate assessment methods, and then the fourth step is to determine the appropriate sample frame. And my question was, do you guys feel like when you're doing the assessment planning stage, do you feel like you should do it in that specific order? Or do you feel like as long as you hit all of those targets while you're planning, like it's beneficial? Or do you feel like you should like plan in that order? Like what will work best for you as an educator? And it's just kind of an opinion question.
I think as long as you hit them all, I don't think it matters what order it's
Yeah,
in.
because
Yeah, go ahead, Olympia.
I was agreeing with you because I was on.
Oh,
Don't they all fall together? Is it like? Don't you all do it in a like when you plan and it's like almost laying it out on the table. It's like a puzzle. Like you need all the pieces at the same time, right?
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
also,
but CD, and for me, I have to like differentiate it. So I might, once I've determined the assessment purpose and specified the intended learning targets, selecting the appropriate assessment, that may be something that I might do that. I might determine the appropriate sample frame and then like kinda like because with differentiation and with me having to hit different goals, like but still with the same student, it kind of is like if I'm doing stuff for math, I kind of solemnly have to do it that way. And then if I'm doing stuff for reading, depending on the reading skill of that student, will require me to kind of move how I plan to assess them around, like to differentiate their assessment. That's just for me though, as an EC teacher.
Yeah. I kind of lay all my pieces out to get because I feel like you need the learning target and you need to look at all of that together to figure out what you really like need to do. Like you need to look at it all together and then move pieces around accordingly. But that's me personally.
I agree.
I got a question. So my question is, why is it important to establish the purpose of an assessment before creating it? Any test items?
Well, see, like that's one of that's kind of going back to the and my question was weird, but when you ask that, like for an example, I'm gonna give all of my students a letter formation test. Like literally, can you write your letters? Because before we even go, and I'm gonna figure out that's gonna give me a quick and concise understanding of who actually can write and who understands their so that gives me a little bit a better of a way to plan my lessons. So I would kind of give everybody, whole group, that same assessment first, depending on where they are falling in my day, and then kind of dictate specifics of okay, I know that this student is good with her letter name. She can at least form them, but she may struggle with decoding them. But her recognition is there. She can actually recognize her letter. So I know that I don't necessarily need to put her in this fast bridge assessment. She needs to be starting in decoding, whether this student, she still is having reversals, so she's still in that alphabetic principle phase. So she can't, she is gonna have to go in that letter recognition group. You know what I mean? So that's kind of how and that's just me, because again, I'm an EC teacher, so I have to kind of do it. So I would do it in reverse order, Mr. Antoine.
Yes, man.
I think I don't know.
I'm with
But
you.
nah,
I'm
it
sitting
probably
here
would just
thinking like,
depend on
I
like
don't
what
know.
you teaching. It probably just depends on y'all subject that y'all teaching now. From what I'm listening to, like what y'all saying, if Miss Ware is doing pretty much gen ed, but it sounds like it's just mostly reading, and then you doing math, it just literally sounds like it just depends on what y'all got going on for real.
See,
Because it
Yeah.
like
might
with
be different for Ryan too. It might be different for her.
Oh, it is.
Yeah, see, like y'all got like some people, some of you guys have like social studies, science, reading, math, all of those. Like with me as an EC teacher, my goals are going to be based on reading, math, and written expression or writing. We don't have to do science and social studies stuff. So I have to differentiate in between that. So if I got like a reading group coming back, 9 times out of 10, I got if they have 3 times a day, I'm gonna have to merge that reading time with their written expression time. So I'm targeting both of those skill sets in one setting, which is why it's important to where, like, if I got people that can actually write, their goals are different. So that's why I'm like, I gotta do stuff a weird way. It's probably weird because it's like, well, that's not how we would do it. That's because I got special education students. So I gotta move a different way. So my assessing looks different because I'm doing the first thing I'm gonna do is figure out where everybody is at. Because then when you get to like the curriculum, still targeting on that chapter on well kind of piggybacking on chapter 3 when you talk about curriculum, if I have a curriculum to teach as far as Spire, if they are all level 1 learners, I might have 2 or 3 students who still are falling beyond that level 1, so they're still sound sensible learners, so they can't be in the same group with the kids who are at the level 1 level. But as the EC teacher, and because of the master schedule, I might have to have them in that same group because I don't have another time to pull them. So in the event that I have to do that, I have to find a way to assess everybody. But if they're on different levels, then that requires different assessments. And when you have different assessments with different levels and different stuff, you gotta differentiate your lessons. So my lesson plans look crazy because I'm having to target people's IEP goals, but after years of doing it, I've kind of learned I've learned how to balance it out. But yeah, it can be difficult. So that's why I'm like the assessment whole stage, like it can look different to everybody depending on what your specialty is or what type of teacher you are.
That's interesting. I enjoyed this conversation with you guys. I thought it was a good conversation about and just getting the different perspectives on assessments and everything like that. Did anybody else have anything to add before we end our lovely podcast? Our hearts and minds are clear.
Ma'am.
All
Not
right.
arts.
All right, I'm gonna go ahead and end it here.